If someone takes a spill, it's me and not you. Who told you you're allowed to rain on my...
Greetings from Castle Goring, from Mickey, Aurora, and from me. Well, hopefully we can keep it entertaining and light, even if not all the matters are funny. And so without further ado, if Aurora would please allow me to, I'm going to have to shove the girls to one side. Oh, the joys of the babies. Oh, yes, they are such a joy. They really are. There's nothing to compare with the joys of beautiful babies. If you could only see what's going on now. Aurora is kissing Mickey for as if her life depended on it. And Mickey is receptive. Mickey is such a good mummy, I have to tell you. Anyway, without further ado, let's plunge right in. JTSLN says, Dear Lady C, thank you for your efforts in reviewing Bauer's book. Based on your repeated recommendations to, quote unquote, read the book, it's well worth reading, end of quotes. I purchased and am almost finished reading it. One thing that stands out to me, other than how conniving that woman is, isn't she just? I mean, really. I may have indicated it in my book, but Bauer certainly hits that nail on the head, a page after page. And well done too. Because people like that, it is the grossness of their repetitiveness that is one of the giveaways of how truly dreadful they are. So, one thing that stands out to me, other than how conniving that woman is how many times Oprah and Gayle turn up in the connections to almost everything the duo of Montecito have done. It seems that almost everyone who hooked up for appearances, engagements, to raise their profile, or has helped them in any way is connected to Oprah and Gayle. I doubt that either of those women will ever turn their backs on Harry's wife. I'd wager that they have something in the works behind the scenes to advance her ambitions. They've all got some racket going, that's for sure. Also, what do you think of Harry's wife channeling Wallis Simpson in an almost identical white getup at the St. Paul's church service? Right down to the gloves. The side-by-side photos being posted on Twitter are too similar to be coincidental. Do you think she was aware Wallis wore almost the same outfit and was thumbing her nose at the royal family, proud to follow in the Duchess of Windsor's footsteps? Well, my dear, that is more than one question, so I am going to have to take it in parts. We've covered the conniving bit, and we'll now get to the Gayle and Oprah bit. Yes, Gayle and Oprah's fingerprints are all over the crime scene. I have to tell you, I think there is a racial element involved with all of this. I do not think that they would be pushing Meghan to the extent that they have done and would appear to be continuing to do if they were not sisters in the skin. You know, there is a natural phenomenon called tribalism. It is true that various tribes or smaller groups of people stick together against larger groups of people. Well, when you are functioning at the level that Oprah and Meghan Markle are, because Gayle King is just a tag on, you should be above race. You should be above class. You should be beneath in terms of reverence, integrity, dignity, the greater good, and not have your eye firmly on the main chance or your main chance. And I hate to say, I get a terrible whiff, almost along the lines of Meghan's book, The Stench. Do you remember The Stench? Well, I get a whiff from The Stench that Oprah and Meghan have really very racist tendencies and are playing out for their differing reasons, because Oprah, remember, was the subject of some prejudice when she was young. Can't have been very much, because she's a billionairess on the backs of hundreds of millions of white people, not black people. It's not black people who made her the huge star that she became and the billionairess that she is. It's white people, all those white people, and I'm going to keep on repeating it, white people who looked at her show. So she has no just cause now to be playing the race card. She should be grateful to all those white people who helped to make her the star that she is, instead of lapsing into, oh, I'm a victim. Every black person's a victim. Oprah, baby, everybody's a victim of one thing or the other. You need to be counting your blessings and be grateful for your success, and be grateful to the people who made you a success, instead of creating mischief for them. I think that's an element that's going on. I could be wrong, but then pigs could fly. And until pigs fly, I don't think I'm wrong. I am not saying that Oprah would not have initially been delighted to have Meghan on board, but I do not think that the pushing of Meghan, the way Meghan has been pushed by Oprah and promoted by Oprah and Oprah's cohorts, is anything but due to race, and the fact that she is married into the British royal family. If she'd been white and turned out to be poison, I think Oprah would have put a huge distance between herself and Meghan. But the fact that they are, as the Jamaicans would say, batty and bench, or as we can say, armpit and deodorant, would suggest that no, race has something to do with it. And if I am misjudging Oprah, I would be delighted to be proven wrong. Delighted. But I think that we have enough evidence that Oprah and Gayle, her cohort, well, really her shadow, really her plus one. Yes, her plus one. Her alter ego. I think they are still promoting Megsy Baby for all it is worth. And hopefully I'll be wrong. As to channeling Wallis Simpson. It's the second time Megsy Baby has done it, and she can't get that right either. It never fails to astonish me how somebody who is so industrious and so eager never manages to actually effect what she hopes to achieve, but instead affects something that results in failure. Yes, the dress is almost identical to one that the Duchess of Windsor wore in, if I am not mistaken, 1951, when Givenchy was about to set upon his own and was still in league with Cristobal Balenciaga. Now, I have Balenciagas and I have Givenchys, not the modern things, the things I can't any longer get into. Balenciaga was known to be a master of construction. Givenchy, a master of simplicity. There are slight differences, but both were the creme de la creme. And Wallis Windsor's dress, it's a coat dress, but it's a dress, which Meghan's isn't. Meghan's is a coat dress that's not a dress because there's something underneath it. There's nothing underneath Wallis's. And I'm not referring to microphones either. Sorry. Oh, damn. Aurora has come to join me. Yes, baby girl. She's dislocated the cushion. Anyway, if you look at the photographs of Wallis Windsor and Meghan Markle, you will see a dramatic difference. Wallis's dress is fitted perfectly. Wallis's dress has a blouson effect and a cinched in a waist because Wallis had a waist. Wallis actually had a good figure for clothes. Meghan doesn't have a waist. Meghan's isn't cinched in. It can't be cinched in. But there are many similarities, down to the gloves, as several people have observed. Well, it shows yet again how Megsy Baby manages to fail every time she hopes to succeed. Because in the Oprah interview, she did wear a dress that was clearly inspired by Wallis and the hairstyle. I mean, Wallis would have been the first to admit she was no beauty. And with due respect to Meghan, she is much better looking than Wallis ever was. She doesn't have Wallis's breeding. She doesn't have Wallis's charm. And now I speak from experience. She doesn't have Wallis's reputation of having been a great hostess. Wallis had an eye for detail and a great deal of attention to the minutiae. And Wallis was a lady, whatever her failings. Meghan, whatever her virtues, has never been and will never be a lady. So, Is she hoping to follow in the footsteps of the Duchess of Windsor? Clearly, because the Duchess of Windsor was a style icon. The Duchess of Windsor had real style. Meghan? Let's move on to the next thing, because really, it doesn't even warrant an answer. You only need to look to see what a total hash she makes of most things, including getting dressed. She's a specialist in missing, not in hitting the bullseye. Just a name says, given the Queen's age and what she has endured, I will never forget the cruel, calculated and deliberate spite this woman and her puppet did during the Oprah interview. The stress and heartache for our Queen must have been immense. To think her husband went to his grave 33 days later with this memory from his beloved grandson. Unforgivable. They are despicable. Do I agree? Just a name? I wish you'd given your name. I agree wholeheartedly. I can tell you as a fact that the Queen has been affected to her very bones by the stress, the strain, the distress, the disappointment, the grief of the ongoing saga. I don't know where Meghan and Harry think they are going to get refuge when the Queen follows Prince Philip. I don't know where they think they are going to get refuge. I don't know how they think they are going to be possibly able to spin the fact that they helped to drive our beloved monarch into an earlier grave than she most likely would otherwise have gone into. I don't want to say any more than that. It is truly, truly one of the most disgraceful sights that we have been subjected to in my nearly 73 years on this earth. Despicable doesn't begin to describe it. It doesn't begin to describe it. I don't care, even if the Queen had deserved what is happening, and she most certainly doesn't. Their behaviour would still be despicable. Even people who have had troubled relationships with their parents, and I count myself amongst that number, never drove them to an earlier grave than they ought to have been to with despicable conduct, knowing that their conduct must have a seriously damaging effect upon the health and well-being of those people. And to do it to a supposedly beloved grandmother and grandfather makes it as bad, if not worse. 84 Berlinette says, "Hi Lady C, I left this on another recent video, but I'm not sure you will see it. So if you have, I apologize for the duplication of the question. Also, thank you for doing this web series. I quite enjoy hearing your educational discourse on subjects of high society, nobility, and royalty. Thank you very much. What about the basic underlying moral tales and moral precepts and moral principles? Those are really important as well. 84 Berlinet. I may be gilding the lily, but I make sure the lily is put into a vase that has water. At least I hope I do. I have heard it said that in order to be a Counsellor of State, one must be domiciled in the United Kingdom. But as a matter of the tax law and immigration law, just Harry is domiciled in the United States, though he is a UK citizen. Is it possible that on that account he might be deprived of this status? I'm afraid, 84 Berlinet, that's not possible. Under British law, which is what is relevant in Harry's case, I'm not sure about American law, but under British law, you can be resident anywhere and still domiciled in the United Kingdom. It's a part of domicile is domicile of origin, where you were born. That is one of the issues that is taken into account when determining domicile. Another is where you intend to end up. Now, very sophisticated people over the decades used to have, this was in the days before we had to pay to be non-doms in this country. It was changed by George Osborne and David Cameron. Had been around since Napoleonic times, but they needed to tamper with it, thinking that they were going to get a shed load of money, instead of which what they did was drive away a shed load of very rich people. But this, I fear, is what happens very often with politicians who can't or won't think effectively. In the olden days, before you had to pay the ridiculous sum you now have to pay to be a non-dom, so nobody wants to be bothered to be a non-dom unless they're multi-billionaires. What you did was you bought a plot of land in, say, the Bahamas, and said that that was going to be your domicile. That was one thing you could do. Or you could buy a plot of land here and spend your whole life abroad and say you were going to be domiciled here if it suited you tax-wise. Which is, so Harry is perfectly within his rights to say the likelihood is he will be buried at Frogmore in the royal plot. Which means he has a right to the status of British domicile. As long as he is domiciled here, he can be a Counsellor of State. Residency is something entirely different. Counsellors of State under the Regency Act are determined by place in the line of succession. It's as simple as that. And let us see what happens, because I don't know how easy it is going to be to get rid of that pestilence. Oh, sorry. I was actually thinking of something else. I wasn't thinking of H. to get rid of Harry. Sorry. DHJDMBA says. Oh dear. Lady C, do you think if Meghan were to run as president, as a widow, which I think is her plan, would the Crown be entitled to assert custody over the children? Would they pay her to obtain custody? What do you think? Well, my dear, in most divorces, people pay to get preferred terms. So let's not pussyfoot around. That's what happens. It's a negotiating tool, and children are often used, and custody of children, as a negotiating tool. The Hague Convention kicks in. America is a signatory, as is Britain. The Hague Convention dictates that the children of a union have to remain except with the consent of the parents in the region where the marital home has been. This is in the event of a divorce or in the event of death. Meghan, if she is resident in California, would obviously retain custody of the children as long as she was not declared to be an unfit parent. Well, of course, if it was shown that she had never been treated for her suicidal tendencies, and that suicidal tendencies can also be flipped psychiatrically into murderous tendencies, and therefore her children could be at risk because of her suicidal tendencies, that is something that could be used to hardball her. But the royal family doesn't hardball in situations like this. It tries to get things done nicely, decently, and amicably. So, I hate to say it, but looks as if Megsy baby, if she were a widow running for president, would have Master Archie Mountbatten Windsor and Ms. Lilibet Mountbatten Windsor flanking her. Keep it for rarely. And 2 exclamation marks is the name of this one. Today we seem to have a very interesting group of names. It says, keep it for real. I wonder what the black women that praised her to be a royal really think of her now. I wish I could hear those comments on her. Thank you, please. My dear, we have had thousands, in fact more than likely tens of thousands of comments from people of colour condemning Meghan, just as we have had the same amount, if not more, maybe less, comments from other people who did not identify as people of colour, condemning Meghan's behaviour. 1 or 2 comments, I would say maybe 2%, have been, oh, Meghan's black, I'm black, the only reason why everybody has it in for her is because she's black. And then you have comments beneath saying, no, it's not because she's black, I'm black. I don't agree with you. You're chatting rubbish. Meghan's a disgrace, blah, 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 blah. So I hope that answers your question. My experience of most black people is that they are as decent, if not more decent, than anybody else. Of course they're going to condemn her. They don't like seeing older people being abused. And most black people, whether they are West Indian or African, and I would imagine American, revere older people. It's certainly in the West Indies and in Africa a part of the culture to respect your elders. And I would imagine in America it is most likely the same thing as well. At least I hope it is. I can't imagine all those religious black people thinking that you shouldn't respect your elders is somehow a commendable thing. Amanda Clutterbuck says, Lady C, thank you so much for your fabulous channel. Thank you very much. I would be very grateful to hear your views on the recent independent newspaper article which refers to royalist trolls disparaging Tyler Perry's tribute to Princess Meghan. Yes, I had a look at it. Well, the Independent is left-wing, and we all know that to a certain group of woke leftists, all black people are perfect and wonderful and marvellous. I'm sure including the one who killed my grandfather and hanged for it, or the one who shot my father, or the two who killed my brother-in-law. I'm sure they are all good and justified. Yes, so good people, according to that way of thinking. However, my grandfather's murderer, Clifton Eccleston, who was black, actually got up in court, it's a matter of public record, and demanded to plead guilty to my grandfather's murder. And the judge stopped the trial and brought in a psychiatrist to confirm that he was of sound mind, because he explained to Clifton Eccleston, you will hang if you continue on the path you're going. And Clifton Eccleston was decent enough to swallow his medicine. I think that there are groups of people who have no morality, who twist and turn everything, and clearly the Independent, in this instance, is a member of one of those groups. Why would people not disparage Tyler Perry's tribute to somebody, first of all, who doesn't exist? She's not Princess Meghan. She's Princess Henry, Duchess of Sussex, Countess of Dumbarton, etc., etc. Heather Whitaker says, Tyler Perry is black. Of course he's standing up for Meghan. Racism works both ways. Heather Whitaker, I don't know if you're right or wrong, but I certainly understand the premise and where you are coming from when you make it. Yes, Some white people will always take the side of white people against black people. Some black people will always take the side of black people against white people. That's just life. Decent people don't go along with personalities. They go along with principles. They don't choose color over right. They know that's wrong. Is Tyler Perry one of them? I will read out what Martha Montenegro says. Dear Lady C, perhaps I may be mistaken, but I am interpreting Mr. Perry's comment as a satirical comment. He is a genius at being very funny. Notice how he uses first row, which is opposite of the second row they received at the Jubilee. He also mentions all she has gone through when in fact she was spoilt and privileged with her father attending her. Lastly, he uses Princess Meghan, which is how she perceives herself and is not her title. I believe by writing all of this and not mentioning bullying claims at his house, he is putting her in his place. Martha Montenegro, you are one of many people who made similar comments that Tyler Perry was putting in the boot, simply doing it maybe the way I sometimes do it. Possibly, no? Louise Brislan says, Lady C, question. Could the Queen at the time that Harry asked permission to marry have said to him, you do not have my permission, and if you go ahead with the marriage, then you will have to give up your royal rights and style as HRH and become a commoner? The short answer is yes. She could have done it. She couldn't have done it quite like that, because Harry had the right, if she turned him down, to go through an alternative process to get permission to marry Meghan. And that would most likely have resulted in very damaging political repercussions, where the British royal family, the monarchy generally, and the reputation of the British royal family would have been concerned. She could have personally said, I don't want the marriage to take place. She indicated, as did Prince Philip, that they were not eager for the marriage to take place. But they took a calculated decision that it was better to allow the marriage, and who knows, they might be right. Because Harry and Meghan have shown themselves to be such targeted, venomous, effective guerrillas. Guerillas, by the way, not Gorillas. They're guerrillas, or as they'd say in Spanish, guerrillas, fighting for the sake of their enrichment and their greater fame. So maybe the royal family did make the right choice, because Harry and Meghan can't accuse them of having prevented the marriage. And Harry and Meghan have, by giving the royal family, giving them enough rope to hang themselves with, have been hoisting themselves on their own petards, if I may mix my metaphors. and showing us with their each and every action why they have gone from being one of the most popular couples on earth, where a lot of affection was directed towards them, into being one of the most reviled couples on earth. Alison Huggins says, "Dear Lady C, thank you very much for your videos. My pleasure. I'd like your comment on the reasoning behind Meghan Markle's conduct towards Princess Charlotte. In my opinion, that she couldn't stand the fact," sorry, there's a word too many, so I'll redo it. "In my opinion, she couldn't stand the fact that she and any children she had would have to one day curtsy to little Charlotte. Additionally, Charlotte looks so much like William, and by extension, her obsession Diana, that the comparisons between their looks today and in the future will be inevitable. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, Charlotte is Kate's daughter. Do you agree, or is there something more at play here?" Well, Alison Hagan, thank you very much for your question. I don't think curtsying has anything to do with it. In all honesty, I think it's that a certain type of person will have targets in their sights, and as Jason Knopf said, Meghan is one of those people. And I saw it with my own mother, that she had 2 of her children in her sights at any given time while we were all growing up. That's just what certain personality types do. I also think Meghan was flexing her muscles and showing off herself and showing Jessica Mulroney and everybody else how important she was and how grand she was and how special she was and how thin she was and how poor little nearly 3-year-old Charlotte, who had baby fat still, wasn't real thin like Megsy baby. Oh dear. Oh dear. And I think she knew that doing this would, and I gather it has, affected the parents. Parents aren't liable to forgive what they regard, whether justly or unjustly, is beside the point, and I say this for legal reasons, as untoward behavior towards their child. I think Meghan was clearly intent on flaunting her power and making sure that William and Catherine would be firmly in the enemy camp. She needs enemies. Paranoics always do. Hustlers, manipulators, calculators always do. It's the name of their game. Cat is trolling, says some of these names. Let's talk about the woman in auctioning off Harry's underwear from when he stripped, cause she wants to remind him how happy he was before Meghan. Well, I think you're referring to a stripper by the name of Carrie Reichert, I think is how it most likely is pronounced. If I've mispronounced it, I'm sorry, Carrie Reichert. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name, who said, very interestingly enough, that when she arrived on the scene, Harry was already naked and he handed her his underwear. Oh dear, oh dear. Well, louche though that Harry was, I think many people think he's preferable to this Harry. But I don't think she's only doing it to remind Harry how happy he was. I think she's doing it for the money. And it will be interesting to see how much the underwear fetches. It will be an indication of Harry's worth, because the more unpopular someone is the less an auction item will go for, unless they are so reviled that it goes back up to the level that it would be where they were truly popular. So, for instance, a painting of Adolf Hitler's will sell for a lot of money. But a painting by, let me think of another character, the former Albanian dictator, I think his name was Hoxha or some such thing, would sell for next to nothing. But a painting by Winston Churchill would sell for a lot. So let's see how much Harry's underwear goes for. Well, all I can say is let's wait and see what Harry's underwear fetches, because it is going to be a very good indication not only of his popularity and or lack thereof, but of his actual worth to the public. I don't think Marilyn Monroe or Debbie Reynolds are going to have to worry. I think their artifacts, shall we be polite and put it that way, fetched good money, unless he is truly reviled or truly revered. I don't think his is going to fetch very much. Let's wait and see. Maybe if it fetches enough, Meghan will go and distribute his underwear to the indigents with the instruction, please sell it. Give me a kickback, 10%. Or better still, donate it to Archie. Lisa Keel says, Dodi Fayed and the Saudi Jamal Khashoggi were first cousins. The diamond earrings Meghan wore from the Saudi prince were blood diamonds. Dodi and Princess Diana were a couple. Is Harry even thicker than I thought to allow the earrings to be on show, since they are blood diamonds? Lisa Keel, you surely couldn't have thought that genius was thick. Harry, he can't be thick. I mean, he's a genius. Chief Impact Officer at Better Up, world expert on mental health, world expert on misinformation, world expert on everything, oh, not to mention flying on private planes. Oh, sorry, it's called the ecology. I'm so naughty. Well, I don't think Harry would have had a choice if Meghan wanted to wear them. He's not called meow whipped for nothing. He does what she wants. Haven't you seen the demonstrations in public? Press the back, up goes the hand. Rub the back, down goes the arm. Like an automaton or a well-trained poodle. So we can safely park that responsibility at Megsy Baby's side. It shows how grossly insensitive she is. And if he had a part to play in it, it shows how grossly insensitive he is. It also shows what ace opportunists and hypocrites they are. That on the one hand, when it suits them to further their racist agenda, they drag in the fact that Dodi was Egyptian and Saudi Arabian. Then when it doesn't suit them, they ignore the fact that his first cousin was Jamal Khashoggi, who had been brutally and grotesquely murdered in the Saudi Arabian consulate in Istanbul very shortly before. It was a worldwide disgrace as well as incident. Mohammed bin Salman, the Saudi Arabian crown prince, was accused of orchestrating the crime. He denied orchestrating the crime. Some people would say he would deny it. Other people will say give him the benefit of the doubt. Irrespective of what position you take on it, the fact of the matter is it was impolitic as well as shockingly, grossly tasteless behavior to wear those earrings that had been gifted by somebody who was being accused all over the world of being the murderer of your dead mother's supposedly future husband and or fiancé and or boyfriend, and who died with her. It boggles the imagination that these people can be so gross, not only tasteless, gross and grotesque in the flaunting of their tastelessness. Is it any wonder that they have gone from being so popular to so unpopular in such a short space of time, and that they have earned every single bit of the opprobrium that is directed at them? I mean, she could have worn them some other time, but to not only wear them, but to lie about wearing them and lie about their provenance. Well, of course, that is par for the course with people like them. I mean, certainly no two words come out of her mouth that are the truth. It would appear that a few more words pop out of his mouth that bear some relationship to reality. But I'm sure she's going to work on that. Oh, Mickey, can you please make reservations for Stockholm? I think we need to go and see what's happening in Stockholm with hostages. Yes, we do. Mickey says she's not going to be bothered to make the reservation. She says, we see all we need to see on a daily basis. Gratis Harry, Meghan, sunshine sacks and their appalling behaviour. And on that note, I will say thank you very much for listening. I hope this has been of some interest to you. If it has, please like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell. And remember, please keep the questions and comments coming in. This cannot be done without you. God bless and goodbye.